Hi, Hocking Hills Podcast is in downtown Toledo today. We're interviewing a couple of our friends from Jeep who are going to talk to us all about the Jeep Festival, the first weekend of August, and more. And we're standing in front of the Toledo Mud Hens Stadium, where tonight is going to be a home game against Iowa. I want to introduce you to our friends Jerry and Joanne and ask them to tell us about what they're doing here with us at the Hocking Hills Podcast.
Well, my name is Joanne Matney, and I'm here to kind of let you know about the volunteer end of the Jeep Fest entity, how we recruit them, what kind of jobs they'll be doing. My background is that I worked at Jeep for 30 years, and my heart's still with Jeep and still here in Toledo.
That's great. Jerry?
My name is Jerry Uber. I'm a retired Jeep plant manager. Been a fan of the Jeep products and the Jeep clubs in our area for a long time. We got involved with Jeep Fest in 2016. Joanne and I got all of our retirees and friends from the plant involved, and we're looking forward to our next event in August.
We appreciate you guys being here with us today in the raindrops. So, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Jeep Fest and why this is a significant year?
It's actually our fifth year for the Jeep Fest. We didn't do one last year, obviously, because of the COVID situation, but there's a lot of pent-up excitement and enthusiasm to get people out, have a good time again. So we're really looking forward to this year as the anniversary.
Yeah. Anything to add to that?
Well, just to add to it would be the fact that, like Jerry said, in 2016 we kind of muddled our way through, if you will, a little play on words. If you look at the Jeeps, they have mud on them. You know, it's a thing that goes along with Jeeps. And we have critiqued it over the years, and now it's just like a perfect puzzle that we just keep adding to, and it's getting bigger and bigger.
How important is the iconic Jeep brand and vehicle to the world, and Toledo specifically?
Well, let's talk first to Toledo. Toledo has been involved with Jeep, and Jeep involved with Toledo for 80 years now. So a lot of our friends, our family, our relatives, between the Jeep, the Willies and the Jeep, and then Dana Spicer, who one of our big sponsors, and another company who happened to build the axles for every one of these vehicles you see on the streets today. There's such a deep set involvement on a personal basis for a lot of folks that the evolution of the Jeep product is really part of the community.
And on the volunteer end of that, the evolution of the families involved in Jeep, because you have so many people that their entire family has worked at Jeep, or they know the neighbors that work at Jeep. And there's this big trickle-down effect. With UAW Local 12, we're amalgamated. We have 50 different units, and about 46 of those provide different parts for these Jeeps. So without Jeep in Toledo, there probably wouldn't be a Toledo.
Right. Well, I was going to say my partner Michelle is a Toledo native. Her entire family is. She comes out of Jeep, and so do a lot of her brothers and father, and so it's an important and venerable interconnection between the symbiotic relationship between Jeep, all it's done for the community, and all the community has helped it do for the world, really. Can you tell any more history about the Jeep Festival? Any more background on that?
Well, we started in 2016. That was the 75th anniversary of Jeep in Toledo. So nobody that we know of had anything planned, and the folks down at the local UAW unit and some of the other folks in the community said, we ought to be celebrating this. So as Joanne said, we kind of threw together it was not much more than a half-day event. And we got a tremendous response and upswell of interest from the community, and we ended up with about 30,000 people, I think, that first year. And it has grown over the years, and last year the thing has morphed into a 2.5, almost 3-day event. And we had over 70,000 people here over the course of the 3 days. So it's definitely the biggest single downtown event in Toledo, and it brings people from all around the United States. We had I think 32 states represented in 2019, We had people from Mexico and from Canada.
Right.
You know, we're not seeing that kind of registration now this year because still some of the travel barriers and so forth. But I think at this point we have like 25 states represented. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, it really is, Jerry. Thank you for that background. One of the special moments of the Jeep Fest is the Jeep Parade. Can you tell us a little bit about that history and how many vehicles are going to be in it this year?
Well, the Jeep Parade is, we have really, you know, what we call three featured elements of the thing. First off is the Jeep Parade. We have this Jeep exhibit in the Seagate Center, and then we have what we call our vendor midway, where all the streets in about a 20-block area are closed. We have over 100 vendors that come to town and set up and display their Jeep products and so forth. But I think the real key element is the Jeep Parade, because we get such participation. And we're anticipating this year to have probably in the area of another 1,500 vehicles or better, because a lot of the people that we know, we have over probably around 1,100 registered at this point. But the vendors come to town and they bring like 5 Jeeps. They say, well, we want to be in the parade too, you know, and we get groups like the Shriners that have the Jeepsters. They want to be in the parade. So there's a lot of those folks, and then we get these Jeep clubs. The big one in the area here is this Glass City Crawlers. They've got like 300 members, and there's a group out of southern Michigan that participates. So Wicked Jeeps, they're called.
Wow.
And you know, we've got a new group that formed here about a year ago, the Toledo Mud Crawlers. So the community, the Jeep community, is ever increasing, and this is another outlet and a good time to showcase their vehicles and with the family. Right.
That's great. Now, for Jeep Fest, how many volunteers are you going to need? How are you organizing them? Is it the same volunteers year in and year out, or do they sort of fall off, new ones come in, or are you just always growing your body of volunteers?
We are always growing. So the very first year we did have 300 volunteers. And some of them came down and said, I'm only going to volunteer for a couple hours, and a couple hours turned into that couple days.
Yeah.
You know, they enjoyed themselves so much they wanted to do other stuff.
Right.
And we're like not going to turn anybody away. So now we have in place a lot of PR through thread marketing and the local media, Facebook, of course. And so we recruit in those entities. They contact through the website, and then we in turn have a training period for them, which will be an all-day training period for the specific jobs. And for each job, then they're assigned I'll just throw out the beer tent. Everyone wants to work in the beer tent. So we throw out the beer tent, the ID checkers, the security for that. It's all volunteer run. And they usually work in 2 to 3 hour segments, and then they're released, and then someone, like I say, will come back. So it is growing. We are only weeks away from the event. We still have a lot of volunteers signing up, and we have, like over here where the Hensville Park is, there will be bouncy houses and stuff like for the kids, and over at Imagination Station, another family-oriented thing. So we try to mix it up so that there's the adult themed things with the parade, and then there's the fun stuff for the kids too.
And Joanne does a really good job with the volunteers, because you know, for us it's another task that has to be handled, but she works to schedule people in the areas that they are comfortable in, number one, and so that everybody has fun, and it's an enjoyable kind of assignment too, you know. It's not like it's a job.
That's right.
And that makes a big difference, and that's why I think we get the repeat interest, you know, year after year of people wanting to help.
Well, the community spirit that this enlivens is so important. And giving back to the community, people will probably love to just continue for decades to be volunteers, you know. And it's multi-generational now, right? Grandparents are bringing their grandchildren, and they're seeing that. Parents bringing their kids and growing up, and now they're volunteering.
Correct. Jerry had mentioned inside the Seagate we'll have a layout where there'll be different Jeeps throughout the generation of Jeeps, you know, there on display. And in that, then we'll have volunteers in there selling merchandise, and they do on-site security to kind of help Jerry, because everyone wants to sit in the vehicles. They're not our vehicles, so we have to respect that.
Yes.
So it's a cool thing.
It's kind of neat when you mentioned how it becomes a family and a generational thing. It's kind of neat. You have an old vehicle, maybe produced in the early 1950s, in the Seagate Center, and there'll be a gentleman there with his grandkids, and he's explaining to them what he used to do to build that vehicle. It's kind of neat.
And he's instilling him the pride of the community. You know, and that really is the beauty of it, is that it's passed down multi-generational, family to family.
It's particularly interesting for me because during the war, and there are still some of the folks that show up that worked at the plant, during the
were the Jeep plants here then in World War II, and they turned into munitions plants? Is that right? They were still making tanks and Jeeps?
No, not here in Toledo. We primarily were the vendor. There was some munitions that were done, some cannon shells and things like that. They made landing gear for an aircraft, but the primary product was the military Jeep, the MB.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat because during that war period, a lot of the gentlemen, the men were off to war, and we probably had one of the highest ratios of women working.
I was going to say, do you think it was Rosie the Riveter?
Exactly. And, a couple of years ago,
God bless them.
We did a ceremony when we tore down one of the stacks at the old plant, and I actually met a woman who drove the Army Jeeps off the line. I had an Army Jeep at that time, and she said, "Would you mind if I get in there and sit in there?" And I said, "No, we'd love it." So it's kind of neat.
That is awesome. Wow, that really adds to the history of the community too. And okay, now you mentioned earlier that this was going to be a closed off about 20 square blocks. What kind of vendors are coming? I mean, I'm sure there's food trucks, and as you said, the Jeep manufacturer, suppliers, but who else is going to be here?
Well,
what other vendors in that 20-block radius?
The beauty of doing this in the downtown area is that all of the restaurants and bars, our event, there's Jeep events all over. You guys are going to be having one down in Hocking Hills here coming up
That's
in the fall. Hopefully
we can't wait to host you the first weekend. Little plug.
But one of the things that's different about our event is it's done in a downtown area. So we don't have the access to some of the off-roading and so forth experiences. What we do have is a dealer, one of our sponsors, he has an off-road course at his dealership. And he opens that up Friday afternoon, and we'll get 500 people up there driving on the off-road course. Then they come to Toledo, and we have a big concert here on a Friday night. And then, like I said, the restaurants and so forth are open. Now, the vendors, because it's a downtown area, it's a little tricky to pull in a semi-truck and a big awning and so forth. We've got over a dozen of them this year. And we start setting up about 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And then on the streets when they close. And we'll have, I think Terraflex is going to be here, one of the big suspension companies. Rancho Suspension will be here. Mopar is going to bring one of their big semi-rigs. Jeep will bring the corporate Jeep, Stellantis now. We'll have one of their vehicles. We usually have a lighting company. We had Sylvania a couple of years ago. Quake Lighting is one of them that come in. And Omix Auto and Rugged Ridge. These are the big national manufacturers. Now we get a lot of our smaller local companies too. But some of the big companies that are our sponsors and so forth, with interesting and new products, this is a kind of a good spot for them to showcase that.
Thank you for that description. Gosh, that sounds exciting. Now, okay, again, the weekend. First weekend in August, it's coming up. It's the 6th through the 8th. Is there still room to become a vendor? Is there still room to get in the parade with your Jeep?
They need to go on ToledoJeepFest.com. And there's some little tabs up there at the top, and they can click volunteer, they can click parade, they can click participation in vendor. Each little drop-down tab will take them to the place they want to go. And then all the information is compiled in there, and then they reach back out to us afterwards.
A lot of the spots are filled. like we have no more room for the big vendor spots, you know, the 80-foot, I mean, parking an 80-foot tractor trailer rig on the streets here, they're all sold out.
Okay.
We're sold with those. We had a few of the smaller spots left when I checked last time, and right now parade registration is closed, but you know they're looking at any cancellations or something. If there's we hate to hate to turn anybody away because it's a fun, family, and basically free event. So we want to get as many people involved as we can. If there's a way to make it work, we try to work around that. But in some cases, it's we're really late at this point. We opened up registration in January, and it was surprising to all of us how quickly things filled up.
The website really is user-friendly. It's Toledo JeepFest.com.
So ToledoJeepFest.com.
We're going to get B-roll photos of this. But also, you mentioned free to the public, but this is a beautiful economic driver that grows every year for the community and the greater Toledo area. So you figure you bring, I mean, when I say it's a family fun and free event, for people that just come down, there's no charge at all. There is a small fee to charge for the parade and for the exhibits, but that entitles you to, everybody gets our custom T-shirt. It's not this one, by the way. This is we've done them in the same pattern for the last couple of years. It's kind of a postage stamp. They've become quite collectible. And
yes,
you
they
see
have.
them everywhere.
Wow,
that's good. One of the big advantage that I see is, if you go to any other events, most of the places you're going to go to, you're going to end up paying $20, $25, $30 for parking.
Yes,
and here you are in a downtown metropolitan area, and that weekend, you drive a Jeep, you're basically parking in the inside the festival area. If you're registered, we find a place for you to park. Now, if you drive a Jeep and you're not registered, there's places to park, that do charge. But in addition to that, the big shopping mall here in town, Franklin Park, you can park there, and TARTA, the Toledo Area Regional Transit, they've got a specially wrapped Jeep Express. It's got the Toledo Jeep Fest information on it. I saw it here a little while ago.
We'll bring them
and
down.
They're going to be shuttling those folks back and forth. And I believe that's at no cost also.
Wow, that is really great.
We really try to make it accessible to everybody, whether you own a Jeep or whether you just are interested. If you come down here, there's a likelihood that you're going to be joining the Glass City Crawlers and driving a Jeep.
And then with the volunteers, I'd like to add that, to get a volunteer, they're giving up their time. If it does take them away from their family, if they didn't bring their family to participate also. So this year we got a lot of really cool gifts for them for their time and efforts. They're going to get special T-shirts also. They're going to get masks because we never know if we might need another mask. And it will have the Toledo 80th years on there for Jeep, and it'll also have, it's going with the military theme. So everything will be in the tans and the army greens and that kind of thing. Fatigues. And then they're also getting coffee cups with some more Toledo Jeep Fest items listed on the coffee cup. And we're just coming up with all these great ideas to just kind of build them. And then one of the other things we've been doing all year long is, along with all of our flyers and along with all the Hocking Hill Jeep Run flyers, we've been ducking Jeeps. And so what this is, it's made by Buff City Soap here in Toledo, Ohio, and one of our sponsors. It's a little duck and it's soap. And then we put them on their door handles, or if they are naked, they're doorless, then we stick them on their seat with the flyers and the little duck.
Can you tell us the history of the Duck Duck Go?
The Duck Duck, that would be him to tell that story.
Jerry, can you tell us?
The details on it, but it's become kind of a phenomenon, and a lot of the folks they do a custom duck for their club or their organization or so forth, and they pass them back and forth. So you come out of a store or something, and you may find one on your door handle, and if you look around, some of the folks are going to have them on the dashboards, and some of them are going to have them other places. But there's literally thousands of them, and it's kind of an international thing.
It
I
is.
think the gal that started it is actually from Toronto or something, and she lives in Georgia now. We've talked to her on the phone, and I think we actually sent her a couple of our ducks.
Okay.
And it's a privilege to be ducked.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is. It is. And, you know, I think it actually, I'm going to mention this on a later podcast, but I think that it's rooted in a military tradition, which is when you would meet somebody in the military, you would give them one of your coins. And there is, so I think that DuckDuckGo is somewhat rooted in that.
Very possible.
But anyway, we want to just say thank you to you. Is there anything else that you can share that you're excited about that we
Please
didn't
mark
cover?
your calendars for August 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we'll be here for sure. This street, if you get a shot later, it's full of Jeeps, and this is nothing compared to what it'll be like on
That's right. That's right.
on that weekend in August.
The other thing I think we'd like to add is the fact that Jerry did allude to this earlier, but all of the dealerships really jumped on the bandwagon this year, and they held what we're calling hype events, which is what Toledo Mud Hens is doing tonight.
Yeah.
And so at each one of their car lots, then we would attend, and the crawlers would come with all the Jeeps. And July 23rd is probably going to be our biggest ever at Toledo Speedway. We're expecting about 500 Jeeps or more.
It's a Friday night event, about a week and a half before our big event.
Right.
But it's going to be at the Toledo Speedway, and you know, as Joanne said, the entire community gets behind these things.
Yes,
And, we'll even have it set up so that I think the vaccination bus will be there at the racetrack,
Okay.
Yeah.
and it'll definitely be here. There'll be a place where you can get the shot, if you will.
Okay,
on,
that's great. Okay.
on Jeep Fest weekend.
I'm Mary McMartin. My partner Michelle Motter and I want to thank you both so much for joining us today. We're going to also have our Hocking Hills Podcast booth as one of the vendors in 3 weeks here. And also we want to invite you, which we think you're already coming, and everybody, all of our listeners and audience, to come to Hocking Hills the first weekend of October, where Hocking Hills Podcast is hosting the annual Hocking Hills Jeep Run. I'm going to be there. Hopefully we'll have an early fall and have beautiful weather, have beautiful fall colors, and we're going to have, we think, couple hundred Jeeps at least.
Got
So
some neat
join
trails
us.
down there, so.
That's right. Thank you both so much.
You're
This has
welcome.
really been fun.
Thank
and
you.
we sort of got the spectrum of weather here today. It was pouring earlier. It rained on us a little bit, sprinkling. The sun came out, and now who knows? But go Mud Hens tonight against Iowa.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
both
you.
so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.